I think we're live. All right, it's your boy DLils. You're on hiphopandhomeruns.com. Unfortunately, I had to do a rush show in response to some things that happened in our media this week, in particular with Stephen A. Smith. I was very disappointed in the aftermath of his comments, and I felt that it was my duty as a young black professional to support one of our more powerful speakers and orators right now, and give Michelle Beadles some clarification as to what he actually was referring to in his comments. So I'm gonna start this by let's play the clip of First Take on Friday. This is what Stephen A. Smith had to say in terms of the Ray Rice situation. Let's take a listen.
By that, we keep talking about the guys. We know you have no business putting your hands on a woman. I don't know how many times I got to reiterate that. But as a man who was raised by women, see, I know what I'm going to do if somebody touches a female member of my family. I know what I'm going to do. I know what my boys are going to do. I know what I'm going to have to remind myself that I work for the worldwide leader. I'm going to have to get law enforcement officials involved because of what I'm going to be tempted to do. But what I've tried to employ the female members of my family, some of who you all met and talked to and what have you, is that, again, and this is what I've done this all my life, let's make sure we don't do anything to provoke wrong actions. Because if I come or somebody else come, whether it's law enforcement officials, your brother, or the fellas that you know, if we come after somebody has put their hands on you, it doesn't negate the fact that they already put their hands on you. So let's try to make sure that we can do our part in making sure that that doesn't happen. Now, you got some dudes that are just horrible, and they're going to do it anyway. And there's never an excuse to put your hands on a woman. But domestic violence or you know, or whatever the case may be, with men putting their hands on women is obviously a very real issue in our society. And I think that just talking about what guys shouldn't do, we got to also make sure that you can do your part to do whatever you can do to try to make sure it doesn't happen. We know they're wrong. We know they're criminal. We know they probably deserve to be in jail. In Ray Rice's case, he probably deserves more than the 2-game suspension, which we both acknowledged. But at the same time, we also have to make sure that we learn as much as we can about elements of provocation. Not that there's real provocation, but the elements of provocation, you got to make sure that you address it, because what we've got to do is do what we can to try to prevent the situations from happening in any way. And I don't think that's broached enough, is all I'm saying.
Okay, so that was Stephen A. Smith's initial assertion, whatever you want to call it. A lot of haters on Twitter are calling it his rant. The man speaks truth and wisdom. So in response to Stephen A.'s clear, articulated comments, Michelle Beadles, I don't even know if I'm saying your name right, I don't care, but Michelle Beadles issues her response, so to speak, through Twitter. Now, just for the people who don't know who Michelle Beadles is, she is a co-host of Sports Nation, another ESPN show. So what that means is they're colleagues, but I'll get to that in a minute. Let's go ahead and read some of Michelle's responses, which also were on Friday after the show aired. These were a few things that she had to say. Okay. She tweeted, just after the show. So, and this is a quote. This is right from her Twitter page. You can go follow her at Michelle D. Beadle. Okay. So I was just forced to watch this morning's First Take. A, I'll never feel clean again. B, I'm now aware that I can provoke my own beating. So from everything this intelligent man articulated, you interpreted it as, I'm now aware that I can provoke my own beating. Okay. This is her next tweet. after that. Meanwhile, there's no dialogue. This isn't like, some, hip hop Atlanta, drama. Nothing. This is none of that. These are two quote unquote professional. Well, one professional, Stephen A. Smith. I'm not sure about Michelle, but her next tweet was, "I'm thinking about wearing a mini skirt this weekend. I'd hate to think what I'd be asking for by doing so. At Stephen A. Smith. #don't provoke." Wearing a mini skirt this weekend, I hate to think what I'd be asking for by doing so. What are you insinuating? He didn't say anything about, the clothes you're wearing in his assertion. Do we need to replay it? That comment was way out of bounds. And it was just, and you can tell as the comments going and as she starts to feel pressure from Twitter and her followers that you can kind of feel the sense that she's kind of crumbling. And I'll address some more in a second. So then her next tweet after that was, "I was in an abusive relationship once. I'm aware that men and women can both be the abuser. To spread a message that we not provoke is wrong." So you're saying that he's spreading a message that to spread a message that we not quote unquote provoke is wrong. Okay, I'm gonna address all these tweets. I want to make sure that all our followers, everybody who's a fan of hiphopandhomeruns.com, who's watching the podcast and the broadcast right now, is able to comprehend what she's saying. I mean, I'm not able to comprehend because it factually is irrelevant to what Stephen A. Smith was talking about. The last of the tweets that I'm going to read from her, because I really don't want to give this girl any more attention, but I have to address her ignorance. "Violence isn't the victim's issue. It's the abuser's. To insinuate otherwise is irresponsible and disgusting. Period. Walk, period, away." So she said a whole lot of nothing. Okay. And I wrote an article. It's on hiphopandhomeruns.com right now. Go ahead and check it. And, I talk about some of the ideologies that she is unable to comprehend in our community. So let me just go ahead and I'm not going to take up your evenings too long tonight, but I do want to expand a little bit on my article. Okay, here are my issues personal with Michelle Beadles' comments. Now, Michelle Beadles, nice looking girl. I don't have any beef with her. We have no history. I have no attitude towards her up until this point. Okay, so let's not make it seem like this is some type of vendetta I have with this girl. No, she's a fine girl. Okay. My issue is that, for one, first thing that you did wrong, you attacked a colleague of yours at ESPN. We're talking about the worldwide leader in sports. We're talking about somebody who is a well-known figure, not only in the urban community, but in our national community as well. I mean, Stephen A. Smith goes to prestigious colleges and universities to speak to youth, elementary schools, middle schools. He's always doing something for the kids. And you're really going to go on Twitter. I don't even know where to begin that you handled this situation the wrong way. Okay? If you genuinely were offended, okay, by Stephen A.'s comments, if you were so offended, then why didn't you call him and have an offline conversation? I mean, in the corporate world, ESPN is a corporation. So in the corporate world, if I have a problem with another one of my colleagues' work ethic or maybe how they handled a project, they're still under my company name. So if I try to blast that project or blast anything that they're doing on a public mainstream, especially on the World Wide Web, then I'm essentially hurting my own brand because we're all under the umbrella of the company that we work for. So basically what I'm saying is that your idiotic Twitter rant may cost Stephen A. a couple $1 million in endorsements. It's very possible that you could have cost this man some money, all because of your interpretation. Because had you not responded the way that you did, none of this would have happened. Yeah, there's 80% of Twitter is going to react a certain way and try to bash Stephen A. That's Twitter. But you, as a colleague of ESPN who have known followers, you all probably have mutual followers, you report to the same people more than likely, you pretty much threw him under the bus. And it's an opinionated talk show. He has a right to his own opinion, and he always articulates himself well. And then to top it all off, oh man, he has to go and he has to humble himself in front of America by giving a 6-minute assertion before the show even starts to clarify his comments. No, Stephen A. Smith shouldn't have to clarify anything. Michelle should stop being so daggone ignorant. That's what should happen, okay? I have a number of questions that I'd like to ask Michelle personally. And granted, we can only, again, I'm not attacking her character here. I'm attacking her comments that she said towards Stephen A. Smith's comments that he made. Her reaction, it was not just. Has she taken the time to just reach out to Stephen A.? I'm sure that this could have been resolved before she felt like she needed to share with her Twitter followers her own personal feelings. Because that's all they are, your own personal feelings. We know about your issues in the past with Matthew Barnaby, okay? You don't have a clean history. I mean, if we continue to look, we see issues with Aaron Andrews. I mean, the list goes on. You have several questionable red flags on your reputable career, so to speak. So I just want the American people and the Twitter followers and the Instagram followers, all these online people who are watching this whole thing play out in sports media, I want them to truly understand what Stephen A. was trying to explain to the American people, okay? What he was trying to explain in the message that don't provoke people to do certain things. He's basically trying to explain that you can't control other people, but you can control your own actions. Okay? Now, what does that mean in the sense of domestic violence? Well, what it means is that in the heat of a moment, everyone can conduct themselves in a manner that does not have to escalate from 0 to 60. Okay? Females are very intelligent creatures, especially in terms of the relationship. And you can't honestly tell me that there are not females out here that know certain buttons to press from their significant others and will press them to get certain reactions. There are females out here who do that, Miss Beadle. I'm sorry that you grew up in this little bubble of society that made you feel as though women are totally innocent in domestic disputes. No woman should ever have hands put on her for any reason. But that does not mean that they don't play a role. You can't assume that everyone has came and brought up in the same background, who's had the same upbringing and taught discipline growing up. You cannot assume that. So if you date someone, okay, and you know that they have potential and they have the ability to reach a certain level, and you realize that you can do certain things to take them to that level, and you do it just to test to see if they will actually reach that certain level, then I'm sorry, Michelle, you're guilty. You are guilty. I can't speak on your situation personally. I don't know what happened with you and Matthew. That's not the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to explain that, yes, although women aren't to blame for being, beaten or any acts of violence towards them, they're not responsible for that, because it's actually they are not the ones that are beating themselves. Okay, literally, but are they? Can they have some psychological blame? Well, it's possible. We can't ignore this. And this is something that Stephen A was trying to tell you, Michelle, that in the black community, we don't have that attitude that, hey, if a man beats on you, he's a bad guy and you were totally irresponsible. No, we don't teach our youth that. We teach our youth, listen, everyone is different and you need to put yourself in the best possible position that you can put yourself that will keep you from being in harm's way. And that everybody does not have the same temperament. Everyone does not have the same level of restraint. So what I may say to person A may not garner the same reaction that person B may have. That's all he was trying to say. Wasn't saying anything about if you wear a mini skirt, what type of reaction. No, you took that to a whole nother country. I don't even know where you were going with that. But I had to come on here and address it for the people. You know, folks don't have to listen to me. Go do research yourself. Go sit in these barbershops and listen to what we teach our youth. Okay? It's about principle from both men and both women. Okay? Everybody plays a role in domestic violence, domestic disputes. It's not just a one-sided thing. And all Stephen A was trying to say is that if you have an opportunity to prevent yourself from being the trigger or to prevent yourself from being a catalyst in a domestic violent act, then why not do that? If you see a situation escalating, then why continue to push if you can retreat? I think that's the only point that Stephen A. Smith was trying to make. And I would appreciate it if people had a little bit more professionalism. In this instance, I'm specifically speaking to Michelle Beadles. Next time, have a little bit more professionalism, okay? And for your colleagues, who's way more famous than you, by the way, it could almost be looked at as a sign of just pure hate. I mean, you don't like... I mean, if we really want to psychoanalyze, like my man Skip says, what you said, your very first comment was, I was just forced to watch this morning's First Take. You were just forced? Why do you make it seem like somebody shoved First Take in your face? I mean, it's a good show. It's a very highly rated show with many viewers and many followers. Not only to mention, it's on your network. So why would you... When you say I was just forced to watch this morning's First Take, it comes off as though that the show is not worthy of you watching. So should we interpret your comments as you putting other shows and your colleagues down? Because that's how I would interpret it. If I was skipping Stephen A, I would interpret it as, Michelle just doesn't like us. I don't know. Twitter, Instagram, you guys react. That's all I have to say. Keep it positive.
On Friday, speaking right here on First Take on the subject of domestic violence, I made what can only amount to the most egregious error of my career. While elaborating on thoughts concerning the NFL's ruling versus Ray Rice, following a domestic dispute with his then-fiancé, I ventured beyond the scope of our discussion by alluding to a woman's role in such heinous matters, going so far as to use the word provoke in my diatribe. My words came across that it is somehow a woman's fault. This was not my intent. It is not what I was trying to say. Yet the failure to clearly articulate something different lies squarely on my shoulders. To say what I actually said was foolish is an understatement. To say I was wrong is obvious. To apologize, to say I'm sorry, doesn't do the matter its proper justice, to be quite honest. But I do sincerely apologize. As a man raised by the greatest mother in the world and 4 older sisters, I've religiously spoken out against domestic violence all of my life. I've done so repeatedly over 20 years in this business, as well as over these very airwaves right here on First Take. My primary reason for doing so is because I've experienced and dealt with the matter within my own family. Unfortunately, I did an incredibly poor job of asserting my point of view this past Friday. For that, again, I am truly, truly sorry. Particularly the victims of domestic abuse, and to my female family members and loved ones I've disappointed and who know I know better. You all deserved a better professional, and quite frankly, a better man last Friday, sitting on this very set, in this very chair. My heartfelt apologies to each and every single one of you.
Stephen A., I appreciate you apologizing. I do. And I